morning, seventh graders. Today we are starting a geometry chapter. Kind of easy. Today we're just going to start out super chill, super easy angle relationships. So I think y'all will do fine. Okay, so there's really two main words we need to learn. There's really two main words that we need to learn today. So I guess like vocabulary. So vertical angles, okay? Now listen, you may want to write this down. You can shorthand it, but you're going to need it. Okay, so vertical angles are opposite angles formed by the intersection of two lines. So when two lines cross, like right here, these are opposite. 2 and 4 is opposite, and 1 and 3, they're opposite. They're opposite of each other, okay? But what you really need to know is, because you're going to have to use, it's like detective work. We're going to have to use what we're learning with this vocabulary word to solve our problems, okay? So they're formed when two angles intersect and they're opposite. And vertical angles are congruent. And if you had me in third grade, or if you've had me before earlier this year, I always say, we can cross that out and we can make our brain say equal, because equal sounds easier for our brain to understand because we've been using that word forever, and we haven't been using congruent. Well, probably you have been using congruent forever, but you've been using equal longer, so it's easy for your brain to process. So vertical angles are equal or the same measure, okay? So they're congruent. They're same size, same measure, okay? So what that means is, let me get a different color, guys. If angle 2 is 160 degrees, if that measures 160 degrees, that means angle 4 is 160 degrees, okay? So look, this is how you can figure out, we can figure out what 1 and 3 measures without even using a protractor, okay? So we know that a straight line is what? A straight line measures 180 degrees, right? Well, if this angle is 160, that means that this angle is 20 degrees, okay? And this is a vertical angle to number 1, angle 1, so that means angle 1 is 20 degrees. Do you see what I'm saying? So just know that we're going to be using that. Okay, so next up is adjacent angles. So think about what the word adjacent means to you. Okay, so I forgot to mention this last video, and I'm not going back and re-recording, but when you see this, the equal sign, and then that little weird thing on top, the little curvy thing, like a ocean wave, that means congruent. Okay, so that's a sign for congruent. And I meant to say that, and I apologize, I didn't say that. Okay, so let's go to adjacent angles. Okay, so adjacent angles, they share a common vertex. And we know vertexes are when angles come together. Like, here's the vertex, or here's the vertex. It's when they come together, okay? It's when they come to a point. Okay, so they share a common vertex. They share it, a common side, and they don't overlap. So here, now we're not going to put the congruent symbol here because we're labeling the adjacent angles. The adjacent angles here are 1 and 2. They share a common vertex right here. Both of them share this little point. They touch. They share a side. This side they share, and they don't overlap, okay? So then 2 and 3, they share a common side, a common vertex. 3 and 4 are adjacent, and 4 and 1 are adjacent, okay? So I hope that you guys understood that. We're going to do some examples up next. Okay, so we're going to use this figure right here to answer some questions, okay? So what we want to do first is, the first word we discussed was vertical angles. So what we want to do is we're going to use this figure, and we want to name 2 vertical angles, okay? So that's kind of easy. All right, so we could say, and we're going to use the letters that they have. We have M, P, N, O, N, L, okay? So vertical angles were opposite angles, and they're congruent. So if this one is 95, this one's 95, right? And if this is 85, this is 85, because those are our opposite angles. So it would be MPN, angle MPN is congruent MPN to LPO. angle LPO. Now there's also these two angles. So either one. So we have angle NPO. NPO is congruent to MPL. Angle MPL. Okay? Now, you always want to have the vertex in the middle, right here. And it can actually be read LPM instead of MPL, but I just did it that way, okay? So if you do a quizzes, if your quizzes happens to have the letter switch, it's okay. The vertex, though, has to be in the middle. That tells us that's the middle, okay? All right, so we're going to do a couple more. All right, guys. So next we want to label we want to figure out our adjacent angles, okay? So I'm going to try to write down here, and it may be a little small. Okay, so our adjacent angles. Remember, adjacent angles share a common vertex, a common side, and they don't overlap. So they're basically next door neighbors, okay? So we'll just start here. Okay, so we have angle MPN. So angle MPN, and I'm not using congruent because they're not congruent. Okay, MPN is touching NPO. Angle NPO, okay? So then I'm just going to go here and here. Okay, so then we have angle NPO and angle OPL. And it could be LPO, it could be backwards. Then we have OPL, angle OPL, and LPM. And then we have LPM, angle LPM, LPN, and angle MPN. Angle MPN. Sorry, I had a brain fart there for a second. Okay. So if you have a question, raise your hand. I'll come help you. Okay. Couple more. Okay, so next up, we're going to determine the value of x. This is my x one right here. I don't know if y'all guys can see it. I can't see it very big. But this is 5x. Okay, so let's know what we do know. Okay, so we know that if this right here, this vertical angle is 85, this vertical angle is 85. So we know 5x is going to equal 85. So, and we also know that if this is 95, this is 95. Because next we're doing y. Okay, so look, 5x is going to be equal to 8. We know because they're congruent, right? We know they're equal. So we know 5x is equal to 85 degrees, right? Right? And you know, I'm not picky about the degrees. Okay, so we know how to solve for x. So we have to get rid of the 5. That's a very close relative. So we have to do the opposite. And what is 5 doing to x right here? It's multiplying. All right, so I've got to do the opposite to get rid of it. So I'm going to divide by 5. That cancels out. Divide by 5. Okay, so 85 divided by 5. It goes in one time. Okay, so it's 17 degrees. Okay. All right, so next up we're going to do solve for y. So see if you guys can figure out what y is. We know this whole angle, if this is 95, this is 95. So pause and see if you can get it, okay? Okay, so I hope you guys solved for y. Hopefully you did. You paused and you did what I asked. Okay, so we have 5y is congruent to 95 degrees because there are vertical angles. 5y degrees is equal to 95 degrees. Okay, guys, so do y'all see why you have to make sure that you understand vocabulary? Because if you understand vocabulary, you don't, like especially science, and I've told y'all this in class, so I know you know this. In science, when you're learning vocabulary words, it's not so you can pass a vocab test at the end of the week or in 2 weeks. The vocabulary is there to help you learn when you get those word problems, okay? Or when you get your science test next year when you're in 8th grade and you get those questions and they have that vocabulary in there. If you understand, you got to take that vocabulary and apply it to the problem, okay? Because it helps you solve. Because if you know what it means, you can solve it, okay? So we know vertical angles are congruent. We can solve this. We know that if this is 95, this is going to be 95, right? So 5y is equal to 95. All right, so again, I've got to get rid of the 5, so I'm going to divide by 5 and divide by 5. So y is equal to, 5 will go into 9 one time, and there will be 4 left over, and it will be 19 degrees, right? Okay, guys. Hopefully you got that, and hopefully you'll do fine on your quizzes assignment. Okay, I forgot. I do need to throw this out there for you guys. Okay, so we need to classify these angles, all right? So there's ways I do this. Okay, so we know obviously this is a what? Sorry, I should have done this. When it has that little square right there, we know that's a right angle, right? And a right angle. You may want to write this down too, guys, because you'll probably see it on your quizzes. That's a right angle, and we know right angles measure 90 degrees. That's it. Nothing else, 90 degrees. That's it. Can't be 91, can't be 89, 90 degrees. Okay, we know that this is a straight angle, right? So you may want to write this down. A straight angle, and we know that straight angles measure 180 degrees. That's it. Can only measure 180 degrees, nothing else. Can't be 179, can't be 181, just straight up 180. So then we have these two, and these are the two that get confused the most by people. But let me tell you how I remember it. I remember acute as a cute little angle. It's a cute little one. It's a cute little angle. You know, you don't have cute big things. Things aren't cute when they're big. They're cute when they're small and tiny, right? So this is an acute angle right here. An acute angle is less than 90 degrees. So it's anything less than 90 degrees, okay? Smaller than 90 degrees. So it's anything smaller than a right angle, okay? Then you have this big old angle right here. I call this the obtuse angle, and I remember it as obese. Obese is fat, right? So this is an obtuse angle, and we know that obtuse angles are less than 180, so it's anything less than 180 degrees, but more than 90 degrees. So it's bigger than a right angle, but it's smaller than a straight angle. So basically, it's 179 degrees to 91 degrees, right? Anything between 179 and 91. And this is anything between 0 degrees and 89 degrees, okay? All right, guys, so good luck.